Every once in a while, someone who attends here looks around and says, "Where's the cross?" And a flag, yeah, maybe even that too. Yes, it is. And whether you've noticed it or not, I don't know how long you've been attending here, but when you walk in the door, on the floor, in the tile, there's a cross. And there is actually a cross right there. I'm sure it was designed that way, framed in the windows. It's a Greek cross, not the traditional Latin cross, but nevertheless it's there. The cross, of course, is the standard Christian symbol found in every church in some form or another all around the world. But one thing I learned some years ago when I went to Rome, and then have since read quite a bit more about and learned about over the years since then, is that for the first 1,000 years of Christianity, the cross was not the central symbol of the church in Christianity. And if you visit the sites of early Christianity, the catacombs in Rome or Rome's early churches, Istanbul's great 6th century cathedral, the Hagia Sophia, the monastery churches in Turkey, or anywhere else where there are still remnants of early Christianity, there are no crosses, or almost no crosses. And where they are present not as the dominant symbol, but as part of something else. Prime example is the church in Rome, St. Giovanni in Laterano, which is the home church always of whoever is the bishop of Rome, the Pope. That church, the basilica, was donated by Constantine after he became emperor. If you go in there now, there's a crucifix that dominates, that's right there in the center as part of the altar. And it was put there when the church was renovated in the Middle Ages. But if you walk behind the altar, you walk into the ancient part of the church where there is still original art. And when you walk there, it is very clear that you are walking into almost another world. What you walk into is a visual representation of paradise. There is a cross there. It's a jewel-studded cross. It is there as well as Jesus in the artwork. But you are surrounded all around you by scenes of paradise, by the 4 rivers of paradise as described in Genesis, by deer, by sheep, by swans, by peacock, by lush greenery. Jesus is standing there in a pool of water with a dove descending on him. And everywhere around is just a symbol of life, abundant life, and what it feels like to be in paradise. And in fact, paradise is the predominant image of early Christian art in worship spaces. When you enter a church, you are reminded that you are entering a part of paradise. Rebecca Parker and Rita Brock wrote a book that I talked about once before here called Saving Paradise, How Christianity Traded Love of This World for Crucifixion and Empire. And they say this about what the intent was. Early Christian paradise was something other than heaven or the afterlife. Our modern views of heaven and paradise think of them as the world after death. However, in the early church, paradise first and foremost was this world, permeated and blessed by the Spirit of God. It was on the earth. Images of it in Rome and Ravenna captured the craggy, scruffy pastoral landscape, the orchards, the clear night skies, the teeming waters of the Mediterranean world, as if they were lit by a power from within. Sparkling mosaics and vivid colors captured the world's luminosity. The images filled the walls of spaces in which liturgies fostered aesthetic, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual experiences of life in the present, in a world created as good and delightful. Like the breathing of a human body, the images said that God blessed the earth with the breath of spirit. It permeated the entire cosmos and was paradise and made paradise the salvation that baptism in the Spirit offered. In the Gospel of John, Jesus is remembered as saying that he came so that those who followed him might have abundant life. Worship spaces were designed to recreate that image so that when you walked in, you had a sense that you were in the midst of abundant life. When the cross came into worship spaces as the central Christian symbol, it marked a turn in Christian theology, with an increasing focus on the death of Jesus, his sacrifice, and the price he paid for us. Atonement theology was born in that era and began to predominate Christian thinking. Of course, the cross and the language of sacrifice, take up your cross and follow me, is part of the biblical message. But just for a moment, imagine the difference in emotional experience of entering a space where you are surrounded on all sides, week after week after week after week, by symbols of life, paradise, starry skies, pastoral scenes with flora and fauna, water, bread, wine, saints hovering close by, which are in all the images. And then imagine the emotional experience and the difference of entering a space where the overwhelming symbol of the space is a cross and the image of sacrifice and death. Parker thinks that something was lost in that transition, and I agree. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to be talking more about that. And each week, I'm going to be exploring some of the symbols of life in paradise, some of that abundant life, and talking about that. But first, let me tell you about tomorrow. Tomorrow, as an old saying goes, if the Lord be willing and the creek don't rise, I'm going to spend a little time in my version of paradise. I'm going fishing. I really can't describe in a way that does it justice the emotional experience of standing near or in a stream fishing. But I actually don't think I need to. I mean, why does everybody in Minnesota go to the lake? And why do people in this state and all around the world go to beaches and lakes and rivers and streams to get away? To be near water. Whether it's a babbling brook or a running stream or river or a deep pool with still water, or waves lapping constantly against the shore, the effect of water on our psyche is just incredibly powerful. Without water, there can be no life. And in many places in our country and around the world, the lack of water is an everyday matter of life and death. But where there is water, people want to be near it. And we have a sense that this is what paradise feels like when we are close to water. There's a passage in Marilyn Robinson's book, Gilead, which speaks in a playful way to the power of water. This is Reverend Ames' description in Gilead of stopping on his way to church one morning to watch a young couple walking ahead of him on the street.